What is going on, everyone? Today we have a 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte. It is the WindForce edition, and we're going to be pairing it with a 9800 X3D CPU today. Now we're going to be checking out Dying Light 2 at 1440 and 1080p resolutions. We're going to be going through all the different settings, layer by layer, see how we can get it to perform as well as possible on this particular setup. I would love to have your subscription. If I've earned it at the end of the video, please hit that little button for me. And with that, let's jump into the video. Alright, so let's jump into it. This is very low quality. So as I said in the intro, we're going to go through layer by layer. This is kind of how I do my videos. Very low quality, no upscaling, no frame generation. I'll have everything at the top bar that is relevant to you at the time, as well as chapter markers set up below so you can skip around to the parts you're most interested in. Yeah, so let's just keep going through here and go to that next preset. Now we're going to do ray tracing at the end. So if you're interested in ray tracing, you can fast forward all the way to the end, but this will be sort of a controlled experiment. So we're going to go to low quality, we're going to leave it on 1440, and we're going to still use no upscaling, no frame generation. Even though it wants to force the DLSS stuff, we're not going to do that. I just want to see what it looks like without it. Right, because it does run fairly decently. As you can see, we're at 126 FPS here, with some, variance here and there as we kind of traverse over this top part here, this roof line. But I just wanted to kind of show you what it looks like without any ray tracing enabled, because it is a very good experience. As you can see, without any sort of upscaling and no ray tracing and no frame generation, you're at about 120 FPS experience. So nothing to scoff at whatsoever. Alright, so let's go up to that medium quality. Let's turn this DLSS back off. It likes to force you to try to use that, but we're just going to see what it looks like without it. So that costs us a little bit of performance, nothing too terrible, still over 100 FPS here, 106, 112, 118. Alright, so right here at 1440, this game is probably going to perform exceptionally well, especially before ray tracing is implemented. But we're going to test those out and go through it, again, layer by layer, and just see what all we can kind of accomplish here and what we need to do. So this is high quality, and then it goes to ray tracing. So this will be a high quality preset, no upscaling. Everything's off, no reflex, no frame generation, nothing like that. All right, so we're going to hit OK there. Let's just keep going. So that gives us about 80 FPS here. And our VRAM allocation is absolutely under control. It's well under 16 gigs, which is on this card. You would even do pretty well on the 8 gig version of this card, because the VRAM allocation is only 5.5 gigs, 5.6 or so. And those two cards are basically identical other than the VRAM. Even though I would definitely recommend going up to the 16. If you're on a super tight budget, the 8 would run this just fine. All right, so I'm just going to jump over here. Just kind of stick around this area, not trigger any story elements. This is the introduction area. It's kind of like where you start the game at. But yeah, we're about 85 FPS here. All right, so let's jump over here and see what we can do as far as high quality goes with some upscaling. So let's just jump only to the quality DLSS here and see what kind of boost that gives us, now that we've kind of explored that you can get up to high quality, no problem, and still have plenty of frames to make this a good experience. Alright, so it's done its thing here. It's applied that DLSS. I am using the DLSS latest model as of the time of this recording. So that gives you 114 FPS. So about what we were seeing when we were on the lowest preset, just under that a hair, but really good performance here on the quality preset with no ray tracing enabled yet. So let's just keep going down to, let's see what a balanced preset would give us, just to see. We're going to be pretty comprehensive here, just to get everyone, hopefully, what they came here to find out. My goal with these videos is to give you an informed decision on what GPU you should buy, and with enough testing and enough games, hopefully it shows you the game that you would like to see on a particular GPU. If you're interested in that kind of thing, please drop a comment and I'll try to acquire that game and that GPU and test it out for you. Alright, so this is about 120 FPS experience, 128. This is the balanced preset. Again, running just fine. I'm going to go to the performance preset and show you that. Then we're going to go over and do some ray tracing at 1440. Now we'll need to restart to do that, so I'll cut all that out. That way you don't have to deal with it. But yeah, we're on the performance preset here, 130 FPS. So it looks really good. Nothing wrong with this experience whatsoever. I need to do some frame generation testing. So let's do that real quick. So let's go back up to that level quality and then turn on the frame gen. So this will be frame gen quality DLSS at 1440p. I'm going to restart and be right back. Alright, so I have restarted. Let's jump back into it here. We've got window borderless, 1440p, VSync is off. Now with the frame generation on, it turns on the NVIDIA Reflex by default, but you might as well just use the boost because it's going to keep your GPU running at top-notch settings and performance to make sure that those frames are available. And we've got no upscaling, so we're going to remove that DLSS right now and see how this runs with no upscaling at all, and jump back into it. So with that frame generation turned on, we're at 92 FPS here. And then again, this is a native setting. We're not upscaling at all. This is native 1440p. And with that frame generation, we are at 87 FPS. Now this game does not support the DLSS 4 override for the 2X, 3X, 4X, but it is just running the standard DLSS 3 model at the time. Which has proven to be plenty, but just keep that in mind that there is no version, there is no way that I can force that 4X right now. But anyway, let's just keep going and come up here and go to enable some quality upscaling. So this will keep everything the same. This is going to be quality with that frame generation turned on at 1440p. We're at about 114 FPS, just to give you guys something different to look at. There we go, 126 as we look out. Let me turn back toward like the main chunk of the city. We're at about 118 FPS here. All right, so let's just keep going with our settings. Go back down in that DLSS. Go to a balanced setting. Let's see what we do there. This is again with that frame generation turned on. You're at 123 FPS, 124. And we have not implemented any ray tracing yet, which will come right after I do this, this little leg of the video, testing out the frame generation. So you're about 120 FPS here. So let's just jump over and go back down to a performance preset. So this is the performance frame gen turned on, and at about 126, 130 FPS here. So very nice fluid experience. Your VRAM is still well under the 16 on this card. It's actually well under the 8 that would be on the 8 GB version of this card, but this is the 16. I just like to call that out since there are two versions of this card. They're identical other than the VRAM. I know I've said that before, but people do skip around in my videos, so I like to say things a few times and not just once. All right, so let's just head up here. Now that we got this dude to drop the ladder for us. Okay. All right, had to cut because there's still some tutorials that are popping up, but yeah, there's some dudes down there. All right, so let's just stay over here. All right, 120, 128 FPS. 132 up here on the roof line. All right, so let's just keep going. All right, so we got a nice fresh restart here. Our ray tracing is set to on. Just gonna run through these settings one more time just to regroup everyone. Got 1440p still. Ray tracing is set to on. The upscaler is set to 0, so no upscaling right now at all, and no frame generation is currently being utilized. Let's go ahead and jump back into it. So as you can see, we're at about 72 FPS here, 75 FPS. Everything looks really nice, really good, very promising, especially with that initial level of ray tracing turned on. Now, if we jump over to the next level of ray tracing, which is very high, it's going to try to force that quality DLSS on us. We don't want that yet. Let's just check this out. All right, so it is quite a bit more intensive. It dropped us down to 41 FPS here. All right, so once we get to this, we'll go through some more of that DLSS and work on our different settings. But I just kind of wanted to show the difference initially between what high is and what just regular ray tracing is in this title. Quite a big difference. So let's just jump back over here and go with the regular ray tracing, DLSS quality, which is what it wants you to use anyway. Blur is off, everything's off, and frame generation is off. All right, so let's just jump into it. And that gives us 109, 107, definitely over 100 FPS here. So absolutely nice, nice performance with that ray tracing set to on, especially at this quality DLSS setting, which still looks really, really good. Definitely not anything you should ignore. The quality ray tracing is quite nice, usually in most titles. All right, so let's just keep going here and see what the next level of balanced will give us. So balanced gives us about 111, not that much more, a little bit, but you know, maybe 10% more performance. Still looks really nice. Doesn't really look too terribly different from what quality looked like. So this is a good option if you really want some high frames. And let's see what the very next level would be. I'm just going to kind of get through these pretty quickly. This is performance, 1440p. Definitely softer looking on performance, but still not bad. Still, you know, very respectable visual quality. Looks really nice still. And that allows you to have 126 FPS before any sort of frame generation is turned on. 130 even in some scenarios. All right, so let's just jump into here. So we're on the regular ray tracing. Let's go back to a quality DLSS performance. Actually, no, let's go no upscaling, and let's turn that frame generation turned on. I forget my words sometimes. It drives me crazy. All right, so no upscaling, 1440, initial ray tracing, so just regular ray tracing, and no frame generation, or with frame generation. We're going to do it with frame generation, no upscaling, 1440. There we go. All right. Yes, I would like to save them. All right, let's go. Let's just see what this does. All right, so this was around like a 45 or 50 FPS experience originally, and with that frame generation, you're looking at about 87. Probably not where I would run it, just because I like to have my frame generation come in once I hit around 50 to 60 FPS. You know, but this is a faster paced game, so that is something I would probably be more concerned about in this title than something like, you know, Alan Wake or something that's a little bit more lumbery. This is definitely not a lumbery type of game, so I'm just going to come in here and turn on the next level. Whoops, wrong button. The next level of DLSS, which would be quality, or the first level of DLSS actually, with that frame generation turned on, and you're looking at 115 FPS here on the base ray tracing setting. So we're looking nice, looking pretty good. You know, 113 FPS looks fine in this title. I mean, there's just nothing wrong with going through it and, you know, trying to just see what we could do as far as like forcing a card that is typically reserved for a much lower performance metrics. See what we can do on this title that's a little bit older. So titles that have a little bit of age to them tend to, you know, obviously run better, and you know, you can definitely get away with it on something like a 5060 Ti and have a good experience. All right, so I'm just gonna maybe get off of this scaffolding somehow, if I can figure out how to do that. There we go. All right, try to give you guys something else to look at, and there you go, that's what I get. All right, so come down here and let's go to that balanced preset. Again, this is balanced 1440, and with frame generation turned on that very first initial ray tracing preset. All right, so let's go through it. 125 FPS here, 122, and let's just go on to the very next level, which would be performance. All right, pay attention to that black bar up there. That tells you everything you need to know. All right, so 132 FPS here, looking quite nice, quite a good experience. Can't complain about this this performance on this card. Now, I say that. Let's jump over to the very next level of ray tracing. All right, so I'm going to go back to no upscaling, and I'm going to go back to no frame gen. So this would be probably, yeah, this is about the hardest you can get it to run. So this is full ray tracing, 40 FPS here. This is, again, native with no frame gen. So everything looks really pretty. The ray tracing is quite nice in this title, especially as the sun sets and that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's just skip this dude. And it's going to give me a little talking box here. Get through this. Come on. I just started this, so I'm in the initial area. So it's still giving me a bunch of tutorials. All right. So yeah, it looks like Yeah, it looks like 40 FPS is what you can kind of expect here. So let's go on to the next level and go up to a quality DLSS. And this is going to be full ray tracing with no frame gen on a quality DLSS setting. And bam, there you go. You are over 60. That looks really good. This is quite promising. Yeah, so your frames look nice and over 60. No frame generation has been implemented yet, but let's just go to balanced and quality to get some numbers for that. Then we'll test out some frame gen before we jump over to 1080p. So this would be balanced, and that's going to give you about 80 or so FPS, 82 on that balanced preset of DLSS. All right, so looks really good, nice and sharp still, performing very well, and the ray tracing is really pretty. It's really nice looking, especially in the sunset times of the day. All right, so let's jump over here, and at night it looks pretty good too. I have played a little bit of this at night with ray tracing, and the UV areas really stand out pretty well. All right, so you're looking at 98 FPS here at a 1440p experience before any frame generation. And yeah, I'm not going to go down there yet. Anyway, let's just keep on going. We've got a few more settings to go through. I'm going to turn on that frame generation and go back up to DLSS quality, actually. So DLSS quality, frame generation is on. That's going to automatically kick on that reflex. We'll just go ahead and enable boost just to give us that best performance. All right, so let's go over here. And we are looking about 90 FPS. This was about 60, if you can remember. So 65, 66, plus the frame generation gives you almost 90 here with quality DLSS. So really nice and super respectable numbers. You know, you're definitely using all the newest stuff. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I am forcing the new DLSS 4 models. Unfortunately, that does not allow me to use 2x, 3x, 4x frame generation. This is still the original frame generation that came with the title, but it's still, you know, I don't think you really quite need 4x on this, but it would be nice if they did do that update. But anyway, here is what it looks like on quality with frame gen at 1440. All right, let's just keep going and jump over into the next level, which would be balanced. This would be a balanced setting, so we're over 100, right at 99, 97. Let's go ahead and head down this ladder. Okay, so 105. And you're looking like this is going to be very smooth, a nice, well-running title. All right, so let's just jump over again because everybody wants to see everything. Let's go to performance. All right, so this is performance DLSS with that frame generation turned on. Notably softer. We got a lot more smearing. It's very shimmery right here. But yeah, it's, you know, if you can tolerate it and you really want to do it this way, I guess you can. I wouldn't. I would just stick with quality. I think it looks really good and gives you a nice performance. I can't really tell the difference in a title like this between, you know, 90 and 110 or whatever. So, you know, that's just me. Everybody's a little bit different though, so I like to show everything. All right, so with that said, let's jump over and check out what else we need to do here. So we've got ray tracing set to on, we got performance. All right, we've done all that stuff, and our frame generation is on. All right, so the next thing to do would probably just jump down into 1080p. So let's check out 1080p. I'm going to leave the ray tracing turned on for this test just because I don't really feel like you need to see how, you know, I mean, it's going to run fine without ray tracing for sure. It just, there's no reason. It looks great on 1440. It'll only be better on 1080p. So we're going to do this way. Frame generation is going to be off. We're going to use ray tracing set to the low ray tracing for now, 1080p. We're going to turn that off. We're not using any frame generation, no upscaling. All right, so let's jump into it here. And we're going to do a quick resolution change and jump into it. And right here at the regular ray tracing, so this is native ray tracing with no frame gen, we're at 150 FPS. That's what I was saying. It's just like not a point in going under ray tracing on 1080p. It's going to run really freaking well. All right, so let's just jump over and see what we can do with a quality preset, just because that's kind of like, you know, it's just kind of like free frames. You give up the slightest bit of quality, of clarity, and then sometimes, like in this case, since I'm on a monitor that's quite big, the sharpening actually makes it look a little bit better in my view. That's just my opinion. You know, come at me if you want to, that's fine. But it looks a little bit better because you're doing the upscale and it is applying a pretty nice sharpening to it. It looks a little bit better. So anyway, if you're on you know, maybe a 1440p monitor and you want to try to run it at 1080p, you're going to have a little bit of blurriness already. But you know, in my view, it looks really nice, even with that quality enabled. That's going to give you about 162, 160 FPS there. All right, so let's just go up to that next level of ray tracing. I'm going to do no upscaling right now and just see how this looks, because, you know, it's at 1080p and we've kind of proven that it's running really well. So this is the full ray tracing experience at 1080p with no upscaling here at 75 FPS. All right, and it, you know, I can tell you right now, I just went from quality to native. Quality does look better, especially on a monitor that's this big. This is a 32-inch monitor, so I'm going way up from the 1080p, you know, kind of pixel density or whatever you want to call it. All right, so let's just jump over and turn on a little bit of the upscaling. So this is a quality upscale, and this will give you a very nice experience with no frame generation, and we're at 120 FPS, 110 FPS. You can absolutely run it this way even without frame gen. We're going to test out frame gen just to make sure that we are covering that as well. But yeah, the 1080p section will be quite a bit shorter, just because it will be noticeably easier to run than the 1440p section. So I'm going to turn that frame generation on. So just to recap, we've got 1080p resolution, quality DLSS, frame generation is turned on. All right, so let's go ahead and apply that. And this is the highest ray traced setting, 123 FPS. All right. So anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Yeah, you can absolutely play this game at 1440 and 1080 on a 5060 Ti 16 or possibly even the 8 gig model. I would still get the 16 gigabyte version just to give yourself that little bit of insurance, but I haven't seen the VRAM peak above 8 at all yet. So very VRAM friendly title. It has a little bit of age to it, so that makes sense. But if you like this kind of stuff, please smack that subscribe button down there. That helps me out more than you can ever imagine. And we will see you guys in the very next video. Peace.